Hi, welcome to another episode of the Living Beyond the Numbers podcast. I'm your host, Jude Boudreaux, here with our Director of Positivity, Caleb Arringdale.
Hello.
And today we've got a guest who's our Chief Operations Officer, Matt Mercer. And sorry for the pause there. We have three Matts who work at the Planning Center, so I had to make sure I had the right one in my mind before I went any further. So welcome, Matt Mercer. Good to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Top of the morning.
Yeah, no, excited to have you on the show. So, yes, I mean, you're our COO. And so, many of us who operate here on kind of the technical side of financial planning and advice delivering. And your role is a really different one. It's coordinating a lot of the things behind the scenes. So maybe share a bit with the listeners about kind of how you came to be a part of the Planning Center.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to do that. I'm coming up on 8 years. So I started here January of 2018, which is wild to think that it's been that long now. Before I worked here, I was working at an online auto auction and kind of the general manager of a facility. So every place I'd been before here was really leadership based and management based. And I think it was Hurricane Harvey hit Houston in 2017. And I spent about a month down in Houston, kind of managing a facility after the hurricane and working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And I came back from that and glad I was there, glad to help do that. But I knew that that wasn't the long-term path for me. So I just started passively looking. And a friend of mine, one of the other aforementioned Matts, Matt Sievertson, had posted a position on LinkedIn that they were looking for an operations manager at the Planning Center, which I knew very little about. But I knew Matt, not tremendously well, but he plays saxophone at the church that I go to, and I sing there. So we'd gotten to know each other for the past few years, and I said, I just messaged him and asked if we could go out and chat about what this was and kind of go from there. So, it's funny what connections can do sometimes. And, it's interesting how you can kind of go industry to industry because my background is not in finance at all.
I was going to say, obviously, with all these management roles, you obviously have a degree in business management.
Close. So close, Caleb. I think I would joke and say my parents might have preferred that, but I don't want to put that on them. I think my degree is actually in theater. So I was at St. Ambrose University here in Davenport, Iowa. So I'm located here in the Quad Cities where Caleb is as well. Had no clue what I wanted to be when I grew up. I think I changed my major 6 times and it bounced around from all sorts of things. I think it started in radio, TV, went to French, marketing, accounting, and I knew that wasn't for me. So Caleb, I very much appreciate you being here. And I finally landed on theater because one, I knew I needed to get my degree, but no matter the major, I found myself still taking those courses. So you kind of have to look at that and say, this isn't required of me, but I'm choosing to do it. How about I just lean into it? So yeah, that's how I landed on a theater degree. And that led me to, since then, 3 different industries. But all of them, ended up in leadership positions that really focus on people, process, and technology. So it's been great.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I think, we've hit on this in a few other episodes. We've got a real creative thread through a lot of the people who are part of the Planning Center. So a lot of musicians, you saying, I know Michelle, one of our other partners, she has a degree in theater as well. So do you find that, applies in a way that people might not think would be applicable with your day-to-day work?
I think so. A lot of my theater, my time working in theater versus getting the degree are very different, right? When you're working on a show, there are different roles to fill and they're clearly defined. So I think there's a lot of value in that. I spent plenty of time on stage, but often where I found the most joy was in directing. So you get to make some of the choices. You get to help things go well and try and bring a vision to life in some ways. And maybe it's a vision that is completely new and unique. Maybe it's tried and true and there's a message to be delivered. But I really enjoy that part of theater. And, when you think about a theater degree, there's a lot more to it than just how to act or or what this is, but script breakdowns. And what I find is my role here at the Planning Center relies a lot on people and conversations and change management and context. And I think those are things I learned quite a bit in school.
Yeah, no, I imagine there's a lot of, at least, I don't know if similarities is the right word, but, threads or learnings that come from running a production and then running a team and helping all the pieces fit together in ways that perhaps not everybody sees when they're, performing their role.
Yeah, and I like that idea of you mentioned context, because if we think about like the different Mercerisms we all say, like one of them is, tell me more. Go on about that, right? And so that's one of the questions.
A running joke, isn't it?
It is, but it's a great question that you constantly ask us. What's behind that?
What's behind that is probably one of the best things I've done while being at the Planning Center is I have an executive coach. So even in my position, I work with other people to help me become a better version of myself. And sometimes, someone can ask a question or say something that can kind of jam me up. So what can I do to help get unstuck? And instead of, being judgmental, how can I stay curious? So that's where that comes from. That's not a theater thing at all, but I think just a continuous learning aspect. And I try to incorporate that whenever I can. And I'm glad it's become a running joke, because that means I use it enough and try to stay objective. So let's keep the joke rolling there. I'm A-okay with that.
So now Chief Operations Officer, you're also one of our shareholders and partners. So you got a lot of priorities in your life. You got wife, 2 little kids, and how do you kind of balance the time and make sure you protect time for what is most important in your life?
That's a great question. I'd love to think that I have it mastered. I certainly don't. What I will say is it's been one of the harder things as time has evolved. When I started here in 2018, I wasn't married. So if we just think of, almost 8 years ago, I could dedicate more time and energy to that. As I wake up today and get ready for work, the energy's lower. I've got a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, more priorities there. So I often in the past have felt guilty about the energy I can give to work sometimes. I remember one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from one of my best friends. When we knew we were expecting our first kid, he said, once you have kids, you can do anything you want. You just can't do everything you want. And it's the thing I tell myself all the time. And that, it started to be a personal thing. Like, okay, I've got kids. I need to be home and present and a good father and a good husband. It doesn't mean I have to say no to everything, but now I have to really prioritize and pick and choose really well. And that quote comes to mind. And I use that quite a bit at work as well now too. There might be a ton of priorities or things that come my way. We joke all the time that people reach out to me when something's broken. They rarely reach out to me when things are going well. It's like, oh, we need something fixed, or this isn't working in some way. So you really have to prioritize. And every year, every quarter, every week, every day, we can't always do everything we want to do, but we can do anything we want. So we just really have to prioritize.
Nice. So then in kind of thinking about, Mercer at home frame, there are traditions or rituals or things that you all have kind of built in or done that help you maintain that, presence that you want while having the demands of an executive role within a firm like ours.
I don't know if there's any specific rituals for the Mercer family. When I think of that, I think of, the rituals that I might have had pre-kids. Like, what are the things I'm still going to make sure that I can do? Whether it's faded off a bit recently, but having time to go work out or time for game night with friends, that sort of thing. But when I think about rituals at home, it's just the daily things. And, I don't think about them as rituals to protect, but I'm sure if they went away, it'd be a different story. I'd miss them a lot, but it's the, sometimes our kids might not sleep the best. So Saturday or Sunday mornings, it's, all right, my wife wakes up with the kids for a bit, then I tap in and she goes and takes a nap. And if that went away, I'd miss some of that alone time. So there's kind of a give and take with all of it too. Or, doing the bedtime and bath time together every night can be a lot. And yes, sometimes you need a break, but man, if I never did that again, that'd be hard. So it's just little daily things that I think help keep you grounded. And I try not to take my work home with me. I don't open my laptop. Like once I'm home, once I leave the office, I really try and shut it off. The one thing I will do though is before I go to bed, I will pull up my phone and I'll email myself priorities for the next day. So it kind of lets me be fully present. But before my head hits the pillow, there's oftentimes I'm setting myself 1 to 3 emails to remind myself what to do in the morning. So little things like that help me stay more present.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it seems like it would help clear out the day's cobwebs, and it's nice to show up in the next morning and know where you're beginning.
Yeah, previous jobs, I used to be able to take the last 30 minutes of the day and close out a day well and really prepare for the next day well. I rarely have that here. I'm just kind of going and working on things. And next thing I know, I've got to go get the kids from daycare. So it's the little things I can try and do to help set up the next day for success.
Along those lines, what do you do here?
Kind of whatever's needed in some form or fashion. My priorities really revolve around people, process, and technology. When I started, it was really undefined. When I started, there wasn't a management team. Eric was our CEO, and I was just trying to hang around and see what needed to be done where. But now we've really grown into having a management team. So I really try and focus on the people, process, technology. And I used to say compliance, but we now have a chief compliance officer that really owns most of that. But I really spend a lot of my time on the strategic plan, on what are the biggest priorities of the year. Are we on track to meet those? What do we need to do in the short or midterm to get things back on track? So whether they're pieces of the plan that I'm owning myself or others, Jude is likely used to me reaching out to him occasionally, asking like, hey, how's this going? What do you need from me to help get it done? So there's a lot of that sort of work that I do quite a bit. And then, I try to make sure I don't lose the team amongst that. We operate in a really high trust environment. I try not to micromanage anyone on the team. But conversely, I want to make sure that they do get enough attention from me that they feel like they are set up for success and can do their job well too. So it's trying to kind of ride that line sometimes.
Yeah, it is tricky. And I think that, looking at the evolution of the firm, the management team itself, and, I feel very fortunate I get to be part of that. I'm on the management team to talk about marketing and business development things. And I'm really good at starting things, and I'm not so great at finishing them. The ADHD part of my personality shows up. Even today, getting ready to record this, I lost my glass of water. Like my office isn't that big, but I couldn't find where I got water. I was getting ready, and I couldn't find where it went. So it's always great to have, people like Mercer hop in and say, well, all right, so now this is moving. How do we make it work really well? And what kinds of things do we need to help? What do you need help with? So that, I think as a firm, we try very much to have people operate in their strengths and provide support where things might be difficult for folks. So maybe speak to that a little bit. Do you find that's part of the work within the team?
Yeah, I think so for sure. One thing I was going to follow up with was a lot of my job, I think, is just trying to make things go well. If I try and act like WD-40 sometimes, like where is there friction? Where is there an issue? What can I do to help? I don't need to insert myself into every situation, but what can I do to help make things go well? And I think sometimes that does kind of pull back to that context piece I was talking about. And I try and lead, from that space a lot, and really, I think context, how I interpret it just means before you can move forward with intention, you have to know where you're coming from. So I try and give, anyone I'm talking to enough background. So we're operating from the same space. If I just launch into something without any context, Jude, you might have assumptions here. Caleb thinks it's coming from this spot here. So the more I can do to get the team grounded means we can, align well, we can act well, and then from there we can adjust and keep that cycle going. So.
Oh, fantastic. So let's take a little bit and think about the firm and the people that we get to serve, so do you think that you've seen patterns within kind of our, the families that we get to work with that are ones that are really satisfied and happy with kind of life? Like, what characteristics do you see there that are more common, like beyond just kind of a asset value or a net worth that might be similar?
I'd really have to rely on you and other people to really give a great answer at that. I think, we've chatted about this before. My job isn't really client facing. So, anything that I would say there is really a game of telephone. So I think I have to rely on other people to say what that really looks like, which I think points to the need for me to not make decisions in a silo as well. One thing I tell, certain roles on my team, especially, our client service associates, Janessa and Crystal, both newer to the firm in the past year. And I'll tell them, I said, hey, I need you to use this lens of clients. It's not that I don't think about clients. I absolutely do, but I don't have the interaction that other people do. So when we're talking about something, I don't know your lens. I need you to be able to speak up, and I'm telling you as proactively as I can that I want to hear it. And I'll use my lens as best I can. If I knew everything and had every perspective, that'd be really cool, but that wouldn't really lean into one of our core values of collaboration. So while I'd love to be able to give you a great answer with that, Jude, I don't know if it's a fair one for me to give. I think the best thing that I can do and way that I can operate for clients is make sure other people's voices are heard, and that I can give them the ability to speak up no matter who that is.
You talk a lot about the idea of the right person in the right chair. And you do a lot of, I won't say you do all of the hiring, but you're involved in quite a bit of the hiring at the company. How has that impacted your role?
Yeah, I think that came from a spot years ago. I mean, when I started, we had 4 people with the title of client relationship manager in 4 different locations that did 4 very different jobs. That's not scalable. That's not growth. That's going to confuse me or anyone else internally, and could confuse clients as well. So, we had to really create a new structure of roles and what that meant. And I remember one of our planners, Mike Branham, in our Alaska office, he said, I don't know who to turn to for X, Y, or Z. So we really spent a lot of time trying to create the best client experience we could for clients, but also for our team, to know who to turn to, who is my support. And that really means I want the right people in the right role. Do I want Mike, doing this back end, custodial paperwork every day? No, that's not the best use of his time. So I really had to try and operate from this idea of, I want the right people doing the right work. No offense to Jude, that's not where Jude's going to thrive. He kind of alluded to it earlier too. Like, we want people to operate out of their strengths. This is just another way of saying that. I want the right people doing the right work. If I had Jude doing paperwork every day, Jude might not be a happy camper, and the company probably wouldn't be in the same place. So I want the right people doing the right work. And so I try and think about that a lot when hiring. And I'm not solely in charge of hiring by any means, but I think over the past few years, we've done a lot of work on what is our hiring process and who are we bringing in to help, serve our clients and be a valuable teammate. And that's one thing I do try and keep in mind a lot.
Yeah. Well, on the thread of the hiring and the team, I feel like there's maybe it goes along with the theater analogy of, there's the front stage part and the backstage part. And so, Caleb and I often can be front stage and talk to a client and have a good conversation. And then there's an awful lot of things that the clients need us to do, and that might be people that they don't see. So I guess tell us a little more about kind of what's happening behind the scenes that a client, should like to know about, or would be really pleased to know is going on back there, so that they know that, people back there are doing great and they're really our clients are very well taken care of.
That's a great question. I think if I were a client, there's a number of things that I would want. And part of that would be a relationship. And I think we've spent a lot of time trying to make sure the relationship isn't only with someone's financial planner. Who is Jude's support team, and how can we be as consistent as possible with that? We talk sometimes about, efficiency, and my mind has to be there off like quite a bit, right? But we don't want to maximize efficiency and have service suffer because of that. if we were going for maximum efficiency on some things, like everything that came out of a meeting that Jude had with the client would go into a queue that someone in the back end would just get done. And it's a name that a client wouldn't know, but something's happening and it's inconsistent. But we've tried to spend a lot of time to create these teams so clients know, oh yeah, I know Kelsey and she's reaching out to me for X, Y, or Z, or I know Marissa Feehan. Oh, there's a new person on the team, but I trust that, they're being trained well, that we have the structure that it's not just one point of contact, that it's Jude or that it's Caleb. Yes, those are the main points of contact and they are masters in their domain, or we certainly aspire to be, but that we have some level of structure and continuity and relationships, even with the people doing more of the back office work too. So I think we've really strived to do that. I hope clients see that and understand it. It's never a guarantee, but you certainly hope that it's there. Outside of that, we spend a lot of time reviewing technology and reviewing processes and what are we doing to try and improve the client experience or the employee experience. And we're always thinking and working on stuff like that.
Recently, there have been so many pushes in our industry towards different AI tools, right? And some are great, and we've tried to incorporate various ones of them. But I just had one recently, a demo with a company who said, well, with this, you can be even more efficient, and just pushing this idea of efficiency. And I think, as you mentioned, yeah, efficiency is great, and we want to be as efficient as possible, but we are in an industry where that human element is so important. And having those relationships with the team is really what this is all about. It's a very high trust industry, and you just don't have that same level of trust with some, AI tool. I think that's one thing that really is great about us.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the other thing to consider with that too is a person's ability to change and how frequently. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think about that a lot internally for our team. Is now the right time to do this? Are they ready to take those steps and learn and try something new? And sometimes the answer is yes. And sometimes the answer is no. It's like, hey, it is, April 4th and we have another, 2 weeks of tax season here. Maybe I don't introduce this piece of technology to Caleb right now. Maybe we rethink this. Right. So, but it's not only for our team, it's for our clients too. There's things we joke about like, hey, we could do this. I'm like, is there a benefit to clients? Or is it just a new shiny thing that is going to cause anxieties, garner questions? Is it doing anything for us? Or is it just another thing that we're changing that we need to be really mindful of?
Yeah. I mean, you talk so much about change management that I think it is, it's really a great view to things. And somebody like me, new things are wonderful and drawn towards them. So, but for most of us, I think change can be difficult. So maybe speak to that. And how do you feel like we try to manage change as an organization in an industry in a technological world that's changing quickly?
I hope we continue improving on that. We don't have it mastered by any means, but I think we try and be mindful of it. When I think of change, again, I go back to context. Like, why are we doing this? Is it just to test something, or is it grounded in what we're trying to accomplish? Is it grounded in our strategic plan? Years ago, we didn't really have a well-defined strategic plan. So we'd say, hey, let's look at this, let's do this. And we'd tack it on to what we were doing and we'd leave things undone. Instead, now it's, well, we have these other 7 high priorities. Which of those are we knocking off to really do this? So part of change management sometimes is heading it off at the pass. There's an analogy I heard, and I don't know where, but I love it. And if you know me at all, I love analogies in any way. My idea of change management is when someone's running a race, they don't stop at the finish line. They cool down. They run for another 40, 50 yards, like 100-meter dash. It's not like they stop right there. So what does that mean for us? When we have a new technology or new process, hey, we got it. It's up and running. Let's move on to the next thing. Like, well, let's really think about what do the next 50 yards look like? What does success look like? How, is it working? Hey, we did this thing. Well, we checked a box, but let's make sure we don't move to the next thing too fast. because, I don't want to pull a hamstring, personally or professionally. So I think that's what I think a lot about with change management is how do we cool down well?
Oh, fantastic. Well, I know we're kind of heading towards our time today. So, Caleb, you want to pass along some rapid fire questions? We'll get to know Matt a little more.
First of all, Matt, what is your favorite animal?
I don't have a favorite animal that I've had my entire life. It's not this one thing. But if I had to answer it, or I'll say it this way, I don't have any of them in my office, right? I don't care that deeply about it. But a one that I've always related to has been a bear. And it's probably for multiple reasons. It's not the Chicago Bears. I am not a Chicago Bears fan. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. So it's not that. I'm 6'6", so I like big animals as it is. But I've actually played Baloo the bear twice on stage. So I've been in the Jungle Book 2 different times. And funny enough, I've played Baloo. So I aspire to be as relaxed, laid back, and as flexible as he is. But I've always had a soft spot for Baloo.
I've noticed the 3 largest people we've had on the podcast so far, all 3 of them have said their favorite animals are bears. So maybe it is if you're above 6'4", you're 6'6", other Matt I think is 6'7".
Whoa. He's 6'6" as well.
Oh, okay.
I think he might have me by a little bit, but yeah.
What was the casting like for Baloo? Is it just like, oh, well, that guy? Like, yeah, like you're here, you're in school, and yeah, you're Baloo. So great.
Yeah, I mean, the first time was in high school. I don't know. Maybe it's really easy for me to act like a bear. So the audition just favors me. I don't know. Maybe it's typecast. Could be anything.
It's just the bare necessities.
That's right.
Yeah. Next question. What is the best money you ever spent?
I'm going to have a little recency bias right now, but we just bought a new house this spring. Yes, I love the house, but it's perfect for our family. New neighborhood, it's on a cul-de-sac. This week I've spent an hour outside every night with my 4-year-old, learning how to ride a bike. So it's really been a great planter. We've been able to really, plant and grow really well there. So couldn't have asked for a better neighborhood, better neighbors. Just really, really excited. And thankfully, I'm excited about the largest purchase I make. That's a good thing. So that's the one that stands out, but it might be a little bit of recency bias there too.
Along the same lines, next question. If you had to buy some happiness, what would you buy?
I'm going to give you a bit more of an abstract answer, but I think it's whatever it is, it's the thing that I'm still going to be happy about in a week. Right. So there's certain things I could buy that might make me happy today, but I love to golf, and it's one thing to go golf in a normal, city course that's here, but sometimes go out of town, pay a little bit more money for a nicer course, nicer experience. Like it's just great. Those sorts of things. If I was to think about my kids, it's sometimes like a tchotchke. The weather here is cooling off. We're kind of in a false fall right now. And me and my 4-year-old have been looking through his sweatshirts at bedtime. And yesterday he pulled out, or 2 days ago, I guess, he pulled out a sweatshirt that I got him a year ago at our company retreat. So it's one of those that, we were at our company retreat. I thought, oh yeah, I better get my kids something when I come home. And it felt like a box to check, but it's a really cool reminder to know that it's not a box that's being checked. A year later, he can still fit in it, and it brings him a ton of joy that he knows exactly what sweatshirt I bought him, and it has this really cool rainbow on it. So the little things I can do for my kids, or, my wife bought these little snackle boxes. They're like little tackle boxes, but meant for snacks. And my goodness, the kids love to just have dinner in that. Hey, we just put pieces of peanut butter and jelly in this, or carrot sticks in this, and go sit in the living room. So little things like that can bring, other people joy, can bring me joy too. So
I'll say that's impressive because your wife is also around 6-footish. So you have large kids. So the fact that they still fit in something is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I didn't say he'd fit in it for long, but yeah, we are tall folk for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very cool. What's your favorite place to travel?
Internationally, my favorite place I've been is Switzerland.
Oh.
I love Switzerland. I didn't expect that. I love, urban areas are great, but there's something about being in the mountains, in the mountain air, and you're in a valley and just gorgeous. Locally, or what I would say here is in the contiguous United States, I love Lake Superior. I love going up north and Duluth, North Shore, Michigan's Upper Peninsula. There's something different there in the Northwoods. I'm not a big fisherman, but it speaks to me. And that's an easier place to travel in Switzerland sometimes. A little bit cheaper, a little bit more accessible. So I like to have 2 of those in my back pocket.
Very cool. Along those lines, dream trip you haven't done yet.
So in the spring of 2020, my wife and I, we didn't have any kids yet. We'd planned a trip out west that COVID ruined for us. It's like, well, we kind of had to pivot away from that. But my wife has never been to California. I've been to California numerous times, but I really wanted to do the Pacific Coast Highway. Mm-hmm. I've been there, San Francisco and south of there, but I've never been to the Pacific Northwest. So we'd had a trip planned where we were going to drive the entirety of the coast and end up, up in Seattle and then fly home from there and seeing friends and family along the way. I think that'd be great. Some of my favorite time with my wife is also just in the car. It's when I find we can just have some very authentic conversations. We can just be and listen to music and exist. So that'd be a really fun trip. I'd love to do that again someday.
Cool. And the final one, you've already sort of alluded to this answer, but best advice anybody ever gave you?
Yeah, the advice I mentioned earlier, once we had kids, you can do anything you want. You can't do everything you want. I think of that a lot, and I very much appreciate that advice. And I know in the moment, my friend was telling me that about having kids, but it really, it personally, professionally, it speaks to me in both areas for sure. So.
Yeah. No, thanks, Matt. Any final words for the listeners? I think you wanted to share that we didn't get to cover today.
No, nothing different. I really appreciate you two having me on. This has been great. I didn't necessarily know what to expect, but no, happy to be on and be a part of it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're so glad to have you on the podcast and within the team. So it's been great to have you around. So thanks, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Living Beyond the Numbers podcast. You can reach me. I'm Jude at theplanningscenter.com. Caleb's Caleb at theplanningscenter.com. Matt Mercer is Matt M at theplanningscenter.com. So distinguished from our other Matts. Thanks again for reaching out. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if there's something you'd like to hear in the future or anything that came up today that you wish we'd share more about. So thanks again for being a part of the podcast, and we'll see you very soon.